than I normally would, and not gonna lie, that's because yesterday, I can't even say yesterday, the whole weekend. I normally record these on a Monday, but the whole weekend I was celebrating my partner's birthday. I believe like birthdays are pretty spectacular. Like it's the day that we were, born into this world, and we should be celebrated. The people that we love should be celebrated, and it just felt really good. We did some lovely things, and so yeah, yesterday was all about him. But today, I am back, and we are going to be talking a bit today, maybe a little bit selfishly. I don't know. Maybe it's selfish, but more so, I don't think so. We're going to be talking about sober witch events, retreats, and community. And I was thinking about this. I've been thinking a lot about this because over the course of the last couple of weeks, I've been preparing, and setting forth some of these events, right? And over the course of almost 2 years, as I've been involved in the sober, witch kind of community, or trying to lead this movement, there is, a conversation that I think is talked about every now and again, but really not as much, and it even was accentuated yesterday. I have a very dear, close friend that's a part of the coven. She's one of my best friends here locally, and she herself has she runs a gardening business, and we actually love kind of doing this stuff, but she does, I'm like 5% of help, meaning I might buy some, unique seeds or grow some unique plants, and she does like everything else. And so yesterday she sends me a message and says, "Hey, I just got a private DM from somebody called the Wine Witch," right? And this person wanted to partner with her because this Wine Witch, is doing kind of these branded events of like, I don't know, wine witch, I don't even know. And it's just, again, this, we got to talking about this, and I said, again, I think this individual is kind of tying this kitschy spiritual, like this kitschy thing of a witch to drinking, right? Like kind of giving purpose. They created a whole business around drinking. And, to each their own. But again, I just don't know that there is enough conversation going on around drinking and the consumption of alcohol in spiritual spaces, right? And witches, that it's a spiritual practice, right? I truly believe somebody that is embraced and identifying a witch has chosen a spiritual path, right? It's not something for aesthetics. It's not something, that's just a trend, so to speak. Don't get me wrong. There is definitely an aesthetic around it, right? But yeah, and so I think there is some normalization. I have talked with handfuls of folks. I'm about to welcome, guests onto the podcast. So I'm going to talk to all sorts of other that there are not a lot of dedicated sober spaces, like events, even a few like Convocation that I went to. It's a big, huge event located here in Michigan. It's a big, conference, and they have a dedicated sober space, but there's still all sorts of drinking that goes on, and I'm sure a lot of pot smoking that's going on around in there. There's a big event in Wisconsin, a big, huge pagan gathering in Wisconsin. Same thing. They have a sober camp, but still, right? Not this dedicated space for folks in recovery, right? In the spiritual witchcraft kind of space. Like, I don't think it's talked about, and I think it is. I even think of during our sacred council session this month, one of the individuals in the coven said, they literally a year, maybe it wasn't a year ago, months ago, did a search. They never thought that they would ever find some kind of retreat space, some kind of gathering that was specifically for folks like witches in recovery. And it's hard. I think it's really hard. I think those of us that are walking this witchy path, are walking this pagan path. I mean, I use the word witch very intentionally because there are a lot of Christian witches that are out there. So we're just going to walking this witchy path, trying to find their people, trying to find their community, trying to stay in recovery, stay sober. It's hard to do, it's not to say that you aren't going to get communities that say, hey, well, you don't have to drink, or hey, a group of friends that like, well, we won't drink around you. But there is a really big difference, being and sharing energetic space with individuals that know and understand recovery and those that are just supporting it. I love the supporters. I really do. But there's a big difference for being in space with those that have walked the journey. So it can be really, really lonely, right? We can think about all of the sobriety, and recovery conventions that are out there. I know we've got them here in Michigan. They're a pretty big deal. They just wrapped up, I think, this past weekend, the NA convention downtown Detroit, right? There is like a Michigan Young, for youth convention. There's the yearly one. All of these things, and from a recovery perspective, lovely and great. But I still know there are folks in the recovery space that are going to turn their heads on the fact that we identify as witches. Instead of getting to know us, understand us, and, what we believe in. So it's really hard. It can be very lonely to navigate that. And this is why I'm sharing today's podcast, because there's another way. There are opportunities, and I hope that I continue to find more of them. I know there's a really lovely woman that does sober yoga, and she does retreats. She's over on the other side of the world though, and that's really amazing and awesome. Amazing and awesome. I've been following her for a while. But again, like from the witch perspective, not everybody that does yoga is going to identify as a witch, right? And I think about when I started to see that this was missing, right, has been, over the course of the last year, like realizing how much people are craving connection. And even for myself, once upon a time, I had a group of individuals that I would, I considered I was a part of a coven as, but I was the only individual that was sober in that group. I know there were 2 or 3 other individuals that questioned their own relationship with alcohol. I know there was at least one individual that absolutely struggled with their relationship with alcohol. But here we would go and we would spend time together, kind of, camping, so to speak, and the alcohol would flow. And I remember the first year that I was in recovery, I attended. It was the last time that I ever did, because I realized just how uncomfortable it was to be around, to not feel seen and witnessed and understood. Sure, I could share and I could talk about these things, but people just didn't understand it. It's lonely, my dears. So I want to talk to you about what I mean by a sober witch event, right? And this one is a bit defined, it is shared because I had someone literally ask what the definition of sobriety was. And I don't talk necessarily about sobriety. I talk about, the Recovery Coven uses the word recovery. The Sovereign Phoenix talks about witches in recovery, because I truly believe in every single individual has their own sovereign responsibility to define what their recovery is. Okay? So any event that we host is open to any individual that identifies as a witch that's in recovery. Okay? Now, they are sober events, meaning there is going to be no alcohol, no drugs, no substances whatsoever, right? They are sober, clean, events. Certain ones, we are going to ask that you have been abstinent from your, whatever of choice, behavior of choice, right? And even the Phoenix, which is a sober event space, asks 48 hours of sobriety before you join them in any of their events, right? And the reason why we do this is because this creates a safe container, right? It means that people aren't going to have to feel like they have to mask. They don't have to switch between identities there. Everybody's just going to get it. And the reality is maybe someone will be struggling to be there in that space. And guess what? We're going to get it. We're going to understand it, right? So let's talk about a couple of these. Number one, we have the community in and of itself that is always there. That is the Recovery Coven, right? It is not just the events, but this is the community itself. We are on a platform. We are virtual. We meet on a regular basis. You know, we've got our recovery circles that are twice a week right now, Monday nights and Fridays. Hopefully at some point even more, right? Hopefully at some point we'll have one a day. Fingers crossed. You know, we meet for psychic development, spell crafting, all sorts of things throughout the month, right? So that's the community piece. We're gathering and doing things, talking, connecting, sharing. I've got programming that I run. It's awesome, right? And of course, if you're never sure if that's like really for you, the circles are a great entry point. Just join us for a circle, right? We can talk. We're like just kind of doing that like recovery work together. But the reality is the community still left things to be desired, right? We were doing the work together, but we weren't necessarily having all of the fun together, all the enjoyment, all of the deep, richer experience. And so there are two other big events, right? Big experiences that have been curated. And the one is, it'll be in the falls. Our very first one is the first weekend of fall this year. And it is called Sober Witch Camp. We are going to be playing, like using the whole weekend as play, which I'm so unbelievably excited about. I've already started like combing through ideas. I was in a used bookstore yesterday looking for like crafting books and crafting ideas. You know, there's no responsibility there. We are going to feed you. My partner is a chef. You're going to get this delicious, incredible food for the, 2 nights that you are there, the 2 nights and 2 days that you are there. We're going to have all sorts of like games and fun time. And, and we are in lodges. We're not in like, you don't have to put up a tent. Like it is pretty much show up, throw down your like sleeping bag, and we're ready to rock and roll type of thing. And this is literally for like some inner child play, joy, laughter, right? And I love this because I think so many of us are the caregivers, not just in our own lives, right? Like we're always kind of doing our own work, but in a lot of other people's lives that are around us, right? So this isn't like a workshop. We're not going to be seminaring or sitting there and, maybe we'll sing some kumbayas, but, I don't expect a ton of tears unless they're filled with belly laughter, right? Unless they're because of, this just hilarious whatever we're doing. I mean, the things that are already on this list that I have is pretty incredible. Like, think s'mores, think campfire songs, think shadow puppets, think friendship bracelets. We are even going to have a really cool souvenir witch camp t-shirt to take home, which I'm excited about. Yeah. And then the next one we have, I've talked with handfuls of folks about this, that there are some places within the country that people want to visit that are very magical, that have a strong, deep history of magic. And one of them specifically is New Orleans. And when most people think about New Orleans, they think about drinking. They think about partying. They think about the debauchery and the late nights and the, late mornings, recovering from hangovers, right? Mardi Gras, all of the festivals. They have a festival, I think, almost every weekend there in New Orleans. So I've talked with folks that hesitate to visit because they don't want the temptation. Guess where we're going? We're going to NOLA. We're going to New Orleans. And this is a really, really beautiful, like, I like to consider it more of a luxurious retreat, right? We're staying in a beautiful Airbnb home, right? We have, all this amazing space, this full kitchen. Again, Dan cooking up. He is the proprietor, it's funny to say it that way, of nolacuisine.com. Well, nolacuisine.net now, because whatever. So he has been cooking that food for, I think, the last 15 years. So we get to try some of that. We have been down there collectively, I think, well over 80 days. We get to show you this city that we've fallen in love with, not through the eyes of the drunken and debauchery, but through the eyes of the spiritual souls that we are. We get to be your tour guides. And collectively together, as a group, we get to create and perform ritual together. All of this in a very safe and protected space, right? It is so important to me to continue to curate events like these, spaces where we feel safe, we feel seen, connected. We're starting with these. My hope, as I said, is once a quarter to have some type of experience. I don't know, this is for right now is going to be for 2027, the latter part of this year, and then 2027 or showcases. But my hope is in 2028 to add maybe something around Yule or the New Year. And maybe even by 2028, something fun and exciting for that summertime. Maybe June would be lovely. Yeah, I think so. But yeah, I've got a much bigger vision. I think we deserve this. I think every single one of us deserve this. And I want to say something because this is coming into mind. I had somebody that messaged, "Oh, I would really love to do this. I've always got to take care of my little ones though." And I get that. I get that, my dear. We all have things that we are responsible for. For some of us, it's children. For some of us, it's parents. For some of us, it's a household. But I also believe that we deserve time for fun, enjoyment, excitement, transformation, connection. So I'd encourage you, if this calls to you, go ahead and visit soberwitch.life/retreat. That'll show you both of the 2 upcoming retreats. And reach out to me. Ask some questions. Connect with me. Better yet, come join us in the Recovery Coven and hang out with us just all the time. But yeah, I think there are some of you listeners out there that not only just deserve these amazing events, but I think there are some of you that need it. So I hope to see you there. Till next time, much love from me to all of you.